The Wolf of Wall Street made Jordan Belfort look cool. Leonardo DiCaprio, partying on yachts, throwing money around like confetti, living what looked like the ultimate dream, 3 hours of pure excess, drugs, champagne, beautiful women, and endless cash. The movie made $400 million worldwide. People dressed up as Jordan Belfort for Halloween. College kids quoted his speeches. He became an icon. But here's what the movie didn't show you. The 70-year-old retiree named Robert, who lost his entire life savings, $47,000, money he saved over 40 years of teaching high school history, gone in 3 months because Jordan's salespeople lied to him about a worthless stock. He had to go back to work at age 72 as a Walmart greeter just to pay his rent. He died in 2006, still broke, still bitter. The single mother named Linda, who invested $23,000, it was an inheritance from her dead husband. She was a nurse working night shifts. She had 2 kids. She wanted to pay for their college education. Jordan's broker called her and promised her the stock would triple in 6 months. She lost every single penny. Her kids never went to college. Both of them went to community college for 2 years and then dropped out to work full-time jobs. Linda went bankrupt in 1998. The thousands of working-class Americans who lost over $200 million combined, teachers, nurses, small business owners, police officers, retirees, people who saved for decades, people who trusted a man in a suit on the phone who said he was from Wall Street, people who believed the American dream included them. Gone. All of it gone. Jordan Belfort stole $200 million from these people. He was caught, prosecuted, convicted. He served 22 months in prison. 22 months for stealing $200 million. Let me say that again because I want you to really hear it. 22 months, that's less than 2 years. That's less time than it takes to get a master's degree. Less time than some people spend planning a wedding. Today, right now, in 2024, Jordan Belfort lives in a $4 million mansion in Manhattan Beach, California. Right on the ocean. He drives luxury cars, he travels the world, he charges $100,000 for a single speaking appearance. Companies pay him this to teach their salespeople how to sell. He makes millions of dollars every year from speeches, author courses, books, and consulting. He still owes his victims $96 million. He will never pay it back. The justice system ordered him to pay $110 million in restitution. He's paid $14 million. That's 12.7% of what he owes. The rest, he says he doesn't have it. He says it goes to living expenses that include a $4 million mansion. The Wolf of Wall Street showed you Leonardo DiCaprio snorting cocaine off a woman's body. It showed you the parties, the yachts, the excess, 3 hours of entertainment. Martin Scorsese directed it. It was nominated for 5 Academy Awards. It's considered one of the best films of the decade. It made you root for Jordan Belfort. It made you laugh with him. It made you want to be him. It glamorized everything. I'm going to show you what the movie didn't show you. I'm going to show you the crime, the real mechanics of the fraud, the victims whose lives were destroyed, the families torn apart, the suicides, the divorces, the bankruptcies, the 70-year-old men going back to work because Jordan Belfort wanted a bigger yacht. I'm going to show you how he's still making millions by being famous for being a criminal. How the justice system completely failed, how white-collar crime in America is a joke if you're rich enough and connected enough. This is what the movie didn't show you. This is the truth about Jordan Belfort. Before we dive into this, I need you to do something right now. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. I want to see how far this video reaches. I want to know if this story matters to people around the world. Hit that subscribe button right now if you want deep, researched, true crime content about the real stories behind famous movies. This is part of my series. If you watched my videos on The Godfather, Casino, Goodfellas, or The Sopranos, you know I do my research. I spend weeks digging through court documents, FBI records, interviews, and testimony. I don't just retell what you already know. I will show you what Hollywood left out. And like this video right now. So the content like this tells YouTube that this is valuable. That thumbs up helps this video reach more people who need to see the truth. Here's what you're about to watch. The complete, true story of Jordan Belfort. From a middle-class kid in the Bronx to a Wall Street millionaire, to a federal prisoner to a millionaire again. Every fact, every number, every crime, all documented and verified from primary sources. You've seen the movie, now you're going to see the reality. If you haven't seen Wolf of Wall Street, that's fine. This story stands completely on its own. But if you have seen it, prepare to see it in a completely different light after the next 3 hours. This is the truth about white-collar crime, about fraud, about how the justice system failed the victims, and about how one man is still profiting from destroying thousands of lives. Let's begin. Jordan Ross Belfort was born on July 9th, 1962 in the Bronx, New York City. I want you to understand something right from the start. Jordan Belfort was not born into poverty. He was not born into wealth. He was born into a comfortable middle-class Jewish family. His father, Max Belfort, was an accountant. His mother, Leah Belfort, was also an accountant. Both of his parents handled other people's money honestly for their entire careers. The irony of this will become clear. The Belfort family lived in the Bronx initially, but when Jordan was still young, they moved to Bayside, Queens. This is an important detail. Bayside is a nicer neighborhood, safer streets, better schools, middle-class stability. Jordan grew up with everything he needed. Not everything he wanted, perhaps, but everything he needed. He wasn't hungry, he wasn't struggling, he had opportunities. He attended Bayside High School. He was a decent student, not exceptional, not terrible, average, but even as a teenager, Jordan showed something that would define his entire life, an obsession with making money. When he was just a kid, maybe 11 or 12 years old, Jordan had a small business selling ice cream at the beach. This was the 1970s. He'd buy ice cream wholesale, mark it up, and sell it to people lying on the sand. On a good day, he'd make $20 or $30. For a kid in the 1970s, that was excellent money. Jordan learned something important from this experience. People will pay for what they want, and if you can identify what they want and put it in front of them at the right moment, you can make money. In high school, Jordan expanded his entrepreneurial ambitions. He and a friend started selling Italian ices door to door. They called themselves the Ice Kings. They'd make the ices themselves, load them into coolers, and go door to door in their neighborhood during summer. They made several $1,000s over a few summers. For teenagers, this was significant money. More importantly, Jordan learned a second lesson. Sales is about persuasion. It's about knocking on a door where nobody asked you to come, convincing them they want something they didn't know they wanted, and walking away with their money. This lesson would define everything that came after. Jordan graduated high school and went to college. First, he attended American University in Washington, D.C. He dropped out. Then he went to the University of Maryland, where he actually finished and got his degree. His major was biology. Why biology? Because Jordan Belfort wanted to be a dentist. This surprises people. The Wolf of Wall Street wanted to pull teeth for a living. But it makes perfect sense when you understand his motivation. Jordan didn't want to be a dentist because he loved teeth. He wanted to be a dentist because he wanted money. His parents, both accountants, wanted him to have a stable, professional career. Dentistry seemed perfect. Good money, respect, stability. Jordan enrolled in the University of Maryland Dental School in 1984. He was 22 years old. He showed up for orientation on his very first day. The dean of the dental school gave a speech to all the new students, and according to Jordan's own retelling of this story, the dean said something like this: "The golden age of dentistry is over. If you're here to get rich, you're in the wrong place." Jordan stood up and walked out. He never went back. Now, I need to tell you something important here. This story comes from Jordan himself. He's told it in his book, he's told it in interviews, he's told it in his speeches. Is it 100% true? I don't know. Some people who've researched Jordan think he exaggerates this story for dramatic effect. Maybe the dean said something like this, but not quite so blunt. Maybe Jordan didn't walk out that exact day. But what matters is this. Jordan took away a lesson. The lesson he learned was this: if dentistry won't make him rich, he needs to find something else that will. He wasn't interested in a career for its own sake. He wasn't interested in helping people or mastering a craft. He was interested in money. Period. So at age 23, Jordan Belfort needed a job. He needed to make money, and he saw an advertisement for a stockbroker training program at a firm called L.F. Rothschild. L.F. Rothschild was a legitimate firm. It's now defunct, but at the time it was a real Wall Street brokerage house. Jordan applied, he got accepted, He began training as a stockbroker. This was 1987. The stock market was booming. Everyone was making money. Wall Street was the place to be. Movies like Wall Street with Michael Douglas were coming out showing how glamorous and profitable it all was. Gordon Gekko saying greed is good. This was the culture. Jordan learned the basics of being a stockbroker, how stocks work, how to cold call potential clients, how commissions work. Brokers get paid a percentage of every trade they execute. The more you sell, the more you make. He learned how to read financial reports, how Wall Street actually operates, the systems, the language, the culture, and Jordan was good at it. He was making $50,000 to $60,000 a year for a 25-year-old in 1987. This was excellent money. He was on his way, and then October 19th, 1987 happened. Black Monday. The stock market crashed. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 22.6% in a single day. This was the worst crash since 1929. It was catastrophic. Firms started bleeding money. They started laying people off immediately. Jordan Belfort was laid off. He was 25 years old. He'd been on Wall Street for less than a year, and now he was unemployed. Most people would take a lesson from this. The lesson would be, the stock market is volatile, legitimate Wall Street can be unstable. Maybe I should find something more secure. Jordan Belfort learned a different lesson. He learned that legitimate Wall Street is for suckers. When things go bad, they'll throw you out. You have no control. You're just a cog in a machine. He decided he needed to find a place where he had more control. Jordan needed work. He needed income. He found a job at a small brokerage firm called the Investor Center. This was not a prestigious firm. This was not Goldman Sachs. This was not Morgan Stanley. The Investor Center was located in a strip mall in Long Island. It was what people in the industry call a chop shop. A chop shop is a shady brokerage that operates in the gray areas of legality. They sell stocks that legitimate firms won't touch. They use high-pressure sales tactics. They target unsophisticated investors. They make their money not by providing value, but by churning accounts and racking up commissions on worthless stocks. At the Investor Center, Jordan learned the business that would make him a fortune and destroy thousands of lives. He learned about penny stocks. Let me explain what penny stocks are, because this is crucial to understanding everything Jordan did. Regular stocks are companies like Apple, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Ford. These companies are listed on major exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. They have real revenue, real products, real employees, real businesses. Their stock prices reflect actual value. When you buy a share of Apple, you're buying a tiny piece of a company worth trillions of dollars. Penny stocks are different. Penny stocks are stocks that trade for less than $5 per share. Usually way less, often 50 cents, sometimes 10 cents. They trade over the counter, which means they're not on the major exchanges. They're in a separate market with less oversight and less regulation. Why are they so cheap? Because the companies are usually worthless. These are tiny companies with no real revenue, no real products. Often they're shell companies. A shell company is basically just paperwork. It exists on paper, it has a name, it files documents with the SEC, but it doesn't actually do anything. No employees, no office, no business operations, just a legal entity. But here's the thing. These stocks are legal to trade, it's legal to buy and sell them, and because they're so cheap and so few people are trading them, they're incredibly easy to manipulate. This is where Jordan saw opportunity. At the Investor Center, Jordan learned something that changed his life. He noticed the commission structure. When you sell a blue chip stock, a legitimate stock like IBM or General Electric, the commission is small, maybe 1%. So if you sell $10,000 worth of IBM stock, you make $100 in commission. But when you sell a penny stock, a worthless piece of garbage, the commission can be 50% or more. So if you sell $10,000 worth of a garbage penny stock, you make $5,000 in commission. Let me repeat that, because this is the entire foundation of Jordan's criminal empire. Selling legitimate stocks, $100 commission on a $10,000 sale. Selling garbage stocks, $5,000 commission on a $10,000 sale. The math was simple. Sell garbage, make 50 times more money. The morality was also simple to Jordan. He didn't care. In his own book, Jordan wrote this, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is the essence of what he said. I felt nothing for the people I was ripping off. They were marks, not people. They were sheep to be sheared. This is who Jordan Belfort was, 25 years old and already completely morally bankrupt. At the Investor Center, Jordan met a man named Danny Porish. Danny Porish was another young broker, also morally flexible, also hungry for money, also willing to lie to people to get it. In the Wolf of Wall Street movie, Jonah Hill plays a character called Donnie Azoff. That character is based on Danny Porish. The real Danny Porish sued the producers because he didn't want to be associated with the movie. He lost. Jordan and Danny became friends. They shared a philosophy: the clients are suckers. We're here to take their money. That's it. That's the game. They decided to start their own firm. Why? Because at the Investor Center, they were working for someone else. They had to split the profits with the owner. If they started their own firm, they could keep everything. They would become the owners. They would become rich. In 1989, Jordan Belfort was 27 years old. He and Danny Porish started their own brokerage firm. They called it Stratton Oakmont. The name was deliberately chosen, Stratton Oakmont. It sounds prestigious. It sounds like old money. It sounds like a firm that's been around for 100 years, managing the wealth of millionaires. It wasn't. It was two guys in their 20s who met at a chop shop in a strip mall. They started Stratton Oakmont in an abandoned auto body shop in Queens, New York. The initial staff was about 20 people, mostly friends, mostly people with no Wall Street experience, mostly people who needed money and didn't ask questions. The business model was simple: pump and dump. Let me explain exactly how a pump and dump scheme works, because Jordan Belfort perfected this fraud and used it to steal $200 million. Step 1. Find a worthless company. Jordan would search for tiny companies that were barely operating. Maybe they had an office. Maybe they had a product they claimed they were developing. Maybe they had nothing at all except paperwork. These companies usually had stock trading over the counter for pennies per share. Let's use an example. Let's say Jordan finds a company called Global Tech Solutions. This is a fake name I'm using for this example, but this is how it worked. Global Tech Solutions is a tiny company. It claims to be developing some kind of technology. In reality, it has 3 employees, a phone line, and a dream. Its stock is trading at 25 cents per share. The total market value of the entire company is maybe $100,000. Step 2. Buy the stock cheap. Jordan buys 1 million shares of Global Tech Solutions at 25 cents per share. This costs him $250,000. He now owns a huge chunk of this worthless company. Step 3. Get hired to promote the stock. Jordan contacts Global Tech Solutions. He tells them, "I can help you raise money by promoting your stock. My brokerage firm will sell your stock to investors." The company is desperate for money. They agree. They pay Stratton Oakmont a cash fee, maybe $50,000. Plus, they give Stratton Oakmont additional shares of stock. Plus, they give them warrants, which are options to buy even more stock at a cheap price later. So Jordan is getting paid to promote this stock, and he already owns 1 million shares. Step 4. The pump. Create artificial demand. Now the fraud really begins. Jordan's salespeople, his brokers at Stratton Oakmont, start calling potential investors. They're making thousands of calls per day, cold calling people who didn't ask to be called, people whose phone numbers they bought from data brokers. The sales pitch goes like this. And I'm going to walk you through this in detail because understanding this pitch is crucial to understanding how Jordan destroyed lives. The phone rings. A man named John Smith answers. The broker says, "Hello, is this Mr. John Smith?" John says, "Yes, who is this?" The broker says, "Mr. Smith, my name is Brad, and I'm calling from Stratton Oakmont. We're a boutique investment firm on Wall Street. Do you have a moment?" Notice what just happened. The broker used John's name. This personalizes the call. It makes it feel less like a cold call and more like a conversation. He said boutique investment firm, which sounds exclusive and sophisticated. He said Wall Street, which sounds legitimate and powerful. And he asked, "Do you have a moment?" which gives John the illusion that he's in control. He's not. John says, Sure, what's this about?" The broker says, "Mr. Smith, I'm calling because we work with a select group of high net worth individuals who are looking for investment opportunities beyond what traditional mutual funds can offer. Before I continue, can I ask, do you currently have any investments? Maybe a 401k, some mutual funds, any stocks? This is the qualifier. The broker is trying to find out if John has money. John says, yes, I have about $50,000 in mutual funds. Perfect. The broker now knows John has $50,000. That's the target. The broker says, perfect. You're exactly the type of sophisticated investor I work with. Notice what he did. He called John sophisticated. John is not sophisticated. John is a high school teacher who has a basic understanding of mutual funds. But being called sophisticated makes him feel good. It makes him feel like he's smart. It makes him trust the broker. Now comes the pitch. The broker says, Mr. Smith, I'm calling about a company that's about to revolutionize the tech industry. It's called Global Tech Solutions. They've just signed a $50 million contract with a major Fortune 500 company. I can't tell you which company yet because the announcement isn't public, but you're going to see it in the news in about 2 weeks. Everything the broker just said is a lie. There is no $50 million contract. There is no Fortune 500 company. There is no announcement coming. All of it is fabricated. But John doesn't know that. John says, really? Tell me more. The broker continues. The stock is trading at just $3 per share right now. Our analysts believe it's going to be $20 within 6 months. That's a 566% return. When was the last time your mutual fund gave you that kind of return? John says, never. But is this risky? The broker says, Mr. Smith, there's always risk in investing. But this is as close to a sure thing as I've seen in my 10 years on Wall Street. In fact, I've put my own money into this. My mother has invested in this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This is like buying Microsoft in 1990. More lies. The broker didn't invest his own money. His mother didn't invest. He hasn't been on Wall Street for 10 years. He's 23 years old and started 3 months ago. All lies. All designed to create a sense of urgency and trust. Now comes the close. The broker says, Mr. Smith, I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I'm going to start you with a small position, just 1,000 shares. That's only $3,000. If I'm right, and I am, you'll make $20,000 when this hits $20 per share. If I'm wrong, you lose $3,000. Risk $3,000 to make $20,000. Does that sound reasonable? John hesitates. Well, I don't know. I need to think about it. The broker doesn't let him think. Mr. Smith, let me ask you something. If you could travel back in time to 1990 and buy Microsoft stock for $3 per share, would you do it? John says, of course. The broker says, that's exactly what this is. This is your Microsoft moment. This is your chance to get in early on something massive. Don't let this pass you by. I'm going to execute this trade for you right now. You're going to thank me in 6 months. John, worn down by the pressure, the flattery, the urgency, the false promise, says, okay. Do it. The broker executes the trade. John just bought 1,000 shares of Global Tech Solutions at $3 per share, $3,000 of his hard-earned money. Here's what actually just happened. The stock is only at $3 because Jordan's team is pumping it. The real value is maybe 25 cents per share. In 3 months, when Jordan dumps his shares, the stock will crash to 50 cents. John will lose $2,500 of his $3,000 investment. The broker makes a commission of $1,500 on this one sale, 50% commission. The broker keeps $750. Stratton Oakmont keeps $750. Jordan gets most of that. For John, this is a devastating loss. For the broker, this is one sale of many he'll make today. For Jordan, this is a tiny piece of a machine generating millions. Step 5. Keep pumping. Stratton Oakmont brokers call hundreds of people, thousands of people. The stock starts rising because of all this buying pressure. It goes from $3 to $5, then to $8, then to $12. Clients who bought at $3 think they're getting rich. They call their broker, Brad, the stock is up to 12. Should I sell? The broker says, no way. This is going to 30. Buy more. Some do. They invest more money. The stock goes to $15, then $20. Step 6. The dump. Jordan sells everything. Jordan has been waiting for this moment. The stock is at $20. He bought at 25 cents. He's made 80 times his money. He sells all 1 million shares at $20 each. That's $20 million in revenue. His cost was $250,000. His profit is $19,750,000. 2 or 3 months of work, $20 million in profit. Step 7. The crash. Jordan is out, Danny Porish is out, all the Stratton insiders are out, they've all sold their shares. There's no more buying pressure. The stock crashes. It goes from $20 to $5 in a day, then to $2, then to $1, then to 50 cents. John Smith, who bought at $3, now has stock worth 50 cents per share. His $3,000 investment is now worth $500. He lost $2,500. The people who bought at $15 or $20, they lost almost everything. Jordan made $20 million. His clients lost $20 million. Perfect transfer of wealth from the middle class to Jordan Belfort. Step 8. Repeat. Jordan finds another worthless company. He does it again and again and again. Stratton Oakmont did this with dozens of companies over the course of 7 years. I wanted to spend more time on the sales script because this is how Jordan actually stole the money. The pump and dump scheme is the structure, but the cold call is the weapon. Jordan Belfort created a script that was psychologically engineered to overcome every objection a potential victim might have. He trained his brokers to memorize this script word for word. He trained them to deliver it with confidence, urgency, and authority. Let me break down the psychology of each phase. Phase 1. The opener. The first 30 seconds are crucial. Most people want to get off the phone with a cold caller immediately. You have to establish credibility and create curiosity fast. Hello? Is this Mr. John Smith? Using the person's name immediately personalizes the call. It makes them pause. Most spam calls say, "Hello, I'm calling about your car's extended warranty." This sounds different. My name is Brad from Stratton Oakmont. We are a boutique investment firm on Wall Street. 3 power words. Boutique, investment firm, Wall Street. Boutique sounds exclusive, like they don't work with just anyone. Investment firm sounds professional and legitimate. Wall Street is the ultimate symbol of wealth and power in America. Do you have a moment? This is brilliant. It gives the person the illusion of control. They think they can say no, but if they're still on the phone, they're already hooked. Most people, especially polite middle-class Americans, will say yes. Phase 2. The qualifier. Now the broker needs to find out if this person is worth continuing with. Do they have money? Mr. Smith, I'm calling because we work with a select group of high net worth individuals. Before I continue, can I ask, do you currently have any investments? Select group makes it sound exclusive. High net worth individuals makes the person feel wealthy even if they're not. It's flattery. When John says he has $50,000 in mutual funds, the broker has his target. Perfect. You're exactly the type of sophisticated investor I work with. More flattery, John is not sophisticated, but being told he is makes him want to prove it. It makes him trust the broker. It makes him want to belong to this select group. Phase 3. The pitch. Now the broker presents the opportunity. This is where the lies begin in earnest. I'm calling about a company that's about to revolutionize the tech industry. Revolutionize is a power word. It implies massive change, massive opportunity. They've just signed a $50 million contract with a major Fortune 500 company. I can't tell you which one because it's not public yet, but you'll see it in the news in about 2 weeks. This is pure fiction. But notice the technique. By saying, I can't tell you which company, the broker creates mystery. It sounds like he has inside information. It makes John feel like he's getting access to something special, something the average person doesn't know. In reality, there is no contract. There is no Fortune 500 company. There will be no news in 2 weeks. The stock is trading at just $3 per share right now. Our analysts believe it's going to be $20 within 6 months. That's a 566% return. Specific numbers are crucial. Saying it's going to go up a lot is vague and unconvincing. Saying it's going to $20 and that's a 566% return sounds precise. It sounds researched. It sounds real. There are no analysts. Stratton Oakmont didn't employ financial analysts. They employed salespeople who lied for a living. When was the last time your mutual fund gave you that kind of return? This question does 2 things. It makes John's current investments seem inadequate, and it makes him feel like he's missing out. Like everyone else is getting these returns, and he's being left behind. Phase 4. The close. Now the broker has to get John to say yes. Mr. Smith, I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I'm going to start you with a small position, just 1,000 shares. That's only $3,000. I'm going to do something I don't usually do. Makes it seem like John is getting special treatment, like the broker is breaking his own rules because he likes John. Just 1,000 shares and only $3,000 are minimizing language. $3,000 is a lot of money to most people, but the word just and only make it seem small. If I'm right, and I am, you'll make $20,000. If I'm wrong, you lose $3,000, risk $3,000 to make $20,000. Does that sound reasonable? This is framing. The broker is framing the decision as a simple risk-reward calculation. $3,000 at risk versus $20,000 in potential gain. When you frame it this way, it sounds like an obvious decision, but it's a false frame. The truth is, there is no potential for $20,000. The stock is worthless. The $3,000 is essentially a guaranteed loss. When John hesitates, the broker uses the Microsoft comparison. If you could travel back in time to 1990 and buy Microsoft stock, would you do it? Everyone says yes to this question. Microsoft made people millionaires. That's exactly what this is. This is your Microsoft moment. This creates FOMO, fear of missing out, one of the most powerful psychological drivers in investing. People are more afraid of missing an opportunity than they are of losing money. I'm going to execute this trade for you right now. Notice the language, not would you like me to AA, but I'm going to. This is called assuming the sale. The broker acts as if John has already said yes. Many people won't correct him. They'll just go along. And John does. 3 months later, the stock crashed. John's $3,000 is worth $500. He's lost $2,500. He's angry. He calls his broker. Brad, the stock tanked. You said it was going to be 20. I lost my money. The broker is ready for this. Mr. Smith, I'm as frustrated as you are. I lost money on this too. But here's what happened. The CEO got caught in a scandal, totally unexpected. Nobody could have predicted this. It had nothing to do with the fundamentals of the company. All lies. There was no CEO scandal. The stock tanked because Jordan dumped it. That was always the plan. But I have good news. I have another opportunity that's even better. This one is guaranteed. I've learned from what happened with global tech. This new company, Digital Solutions, is going to make back everything you lost plus more. The psychology here is powerful. John is in pain. He lost money. The broker is offering him a way to erase that pain, to make it right, to get back to even. The worst thing you can do right now is quit. You need to make back that $2,500. This next stock will do it. Let me invest $5,000 this time so you can make back what you lost plus more. Some people say yes, they're trying to chase their losses, trying to get back to even. This is a classic gambling psychology. Casinos know this. Jordan knew this. The second investment loses too. Now John is down $7,500. Some people invest a third time, a fourth time. By the end, some of Jordan's victims lost $50,000, $100,000, even more, all because they answered a phone call. By 1991, Stratton Oakmont had grown significantly. Jordan moved the operation from the abandoned auto body shop to a large office in Lake Success, Long Island. The office had over 50 brokers at first. Within a few years, it would grow to over 1,000 brokers. The office was set up as an open floor plan, rows and rows of desks. Each desk had a phone, a computer, and a broker making calls. The noise was constant. Phones ringing, brokers talking, shouting, laughing, music blasting from speakers. It was manic energy. Jordan designed it this way on purpose. The chaos was motivating. It created competition. It created energy. Who did Jordan hire as brokers? This is important. He did not hire experienced Wall Street professionals. He did not hire people with finance degrees from Harvard or Wharton. He did not want people who had worked at Goldman Sachs or Merrill Lynch. He hired young guys, mostly men in their 20s and early 30s. Most had no college degree. Most had no finance experience at all. Some had been selling used cars. Some had been in sales jobs that didn't work out. Some were just broke and hungry. Why did Jordan prefer inexperienced people? Because they had no ethical foundation in finance. They hadn't learned right from wrong in this industry. They had no professional standards to violate. They were blank slates. Jordan could train them in his methods without resistance. They were also hungry. They needed money. They would do whatever it took to make money. They wouldn't ask questions. They wouldn't push back. New hires went through what Jordan called Stratton University. This wasn't a formal university. It was an informal training program where new brokers learned the Stratton way. They learned Jordan's scripts word for word. They practiced on each other. They memorized responses to every possible objection a client might raise. "I need to talk to my wife." Response: "Mr. Smith, does your wife call you at work to ask permission when she buys groceries? This is your money. You're the man of the house. Make the decision. I need to think about it." Response: "Mr. Smith, thinking is what poor people do while rich people are taking action. Don't be a sheep, be a wolf. I'm not comfortable with this level of risk." Response: "Mr. Smith, you're comfortable being middle class for the rest of your life? You're comfortable never being able to retire? Risk is how you get ahead." They were taught to show no mercy. The clients were sheep. Stratton brokers were wolves. Sheep exist to be sheared. One former Stratton broker said in an interview years later, "We were taught that clients were stupid. If they had money and they were dumb enough to listen to us, they deserved to lose it." That was the actual culture. We celebrated when someone lost their life savings. We'd high-five each other. Jordan used competitions to motivate his brokers. Whoever makes the biggest sale today gets $10,000 cash. He'd put $10,000 in cash on a table in the middle of the office. Brokers would fight to win it. Top brokers got rewards. Sometimes it was cash bonuses. Sometimes it was cars. Sometimes Jordan brought prostitutes into the office. The top broker of the week got time with a prostitute in the conference room. Yes, this really happened. This isn't me exaggerating. This is documented in testimony and interviews. Drugs were available in the office. Cocaine was common. Jordan employed someone whose job was essentially to supply drugs to the brokers. Keep them high, keep them energized, keep them selling. On Fridays, there were office parties, alcohol, strippers. Sometimes they did something called dwarf tossing. They would hire little people and literally throw them for entertainment. This is in the Wolf of Wall Street movie. It really happened. The movie didn't exaggerate this. This wasn't a professional workplace. This was a fraternity of criminals, a cult of greed. By 1991 and 92, Stratton Oakmont was making millions of dollars per month. Jordan personally was making over $1 million per month. He was 29, 30 years old, richer than most CEOs of legitimate Fortune 500 companies, all from fraud. The NASD, the National Association of Securities Dealers, started getting complaints from investors. "I was lied to. I lost my money. This firm is fraudulent." The NASD investigated Stratton Oakmont. They found violations. They issued fines. Jordan paid the fines. He didn't care. He told his staff, "Fines are just the cost of doing business. It's like paying rent." He had no intention of stopping. During Jordan Belfort's peak years, from approximately 1992 to 1996, he was making extraordinary amounts of money. Court documents from his prosecution show that Jordan's income during this period was at minimum $50 million per year. Some years, possibly more. Jordan himself has claimed in interviews that he made over $100 million in some years, though this isn't fully verified by court records. The FBI's estimate, used in his prosecution, is that Jordan and Stratton Oakmont defrauded investors of over $200 million total. In today's dollars, adjusted for inflation, that's approximately $400 to $500 million. Jordan Belfort was 30 to 34 years old during his peak earning years. To put this in context, the median income in America in the mid-1990s was around $35,000 per year. The average 30-year-old was making maybe $40,000 to $60,000 per year. Jordan was making $50 million per year. That's not a typo. $50 million per year. Where did this money come from? The commission structure. Remember, Stratton Oakmont was charging 50% commissions on penny stock sales, sometimes more. When a broker at Stratton Oakmont sold $1 million worth of penny stocks to clients, Stratton Oakmont took $500,000 in commission. Half of that went to the individual broker. The other half went to the firm, which meant Jordan, since he owned the firm. So on $1 million day of sales, which was common, Jordan personally made $250,000. Multiply this by 20 or 30 or 50 brokers having good days. Multiply this by every business day of the year. The money was pouring in. Jordan Belfort spent money the way most people breathe, constantly and without thinking about it. Let's go through what he bought during his peak years. Mansion in Old Brookville, Long Island. Jordan bought a massive estate in Old Brookville, one of the wealthiest areas on Long Island. He purchased this in the early 1990s for approximately $4 million. The house was 15,000 square feet, multiple bedrooms, multiple bathrooms, tennis court, swimming pool. The property was on 3.5 acres, gated estate, private and secluded. This is where Jordan lived with his second wife Nadine and their children. This was his primary residence, penthouse in Manhattan. Jordan also owned a penthouse apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. He bought this for approximately $7 million. The penthouse was over 3,000 square feet, with views of Central Park, Doorman Building, full-service luxury. Why did he need this when he had the Long Island mansion? Because sometimes he didn't want to make the commute back to Long Island after work, so he stayed in Manhattan. He had a $7 million apartment for convenience. Beach house in the Hamptons. Jordan owned a beach house in West Hampton Beach for approximately $3 million. This was for summer weekends. Total real estate, over $14 million in property. Jordan owned multiple luxury cars simultaneously. At various points he owned multiple Ferraris, including a Testarossa and an F40, a Lamborghini Countach, multiple Mercedes-Benz vehicles, a Bentley, a Porsche 911 Turbo. He owned over 10 luxury cars at once, combined value $3 to $4 million. Some of these cars he drove once and forgot he owned them. He'd buy a Lamborghini, drive it once, and then buy another car the next week. The yacht is worth spending time on because it symbolizes Jordan's excess more than anything else. Jordan bought a yacht that he named after his second wife, Nadine. The yacht was 167 feet long. That's massive. That's longer than half a football field. He paid $22 million for this yacht. The annual operating costs for a yacht this size are approximately $3 to $4 million per year. You need a full crew, a captain, engineers, deckhands, a chef, maintenance, fuel, insurance, docking fees. Jordan paid this every year just to own this boat. The yacht had multiple bedrooms and cabins, a helicopter pad, multiple hot tubs, a full bar and entertainment areas. Everything was luxurious. Jordan kept the yacht in the Mediterranean Sea. He would fly to Europe and vacation on it for weeks at a time. In 1996, Jordan was sailing his yacht in the Mediterranean. A storm was approaching. The captain told Jordan they needed to return to port because the storm was going to be dangerous. Jordan was high on Quaaludes. He told the captain to keep going. He wanted to get to Monaco. The captain protested. Jordan insisted. The storm hit. It was much worse than expected. Massive waves. The yacht was taking on water. It was sinking. The Italian Navy had to come rescue everyone. They used helicopters to evacuate Jordan, his wife, his guests, and the crew. Everyone survived. The yacht sank. Jordan lost a $22 million yacht because he was too high to listen to his captain. His response when he got back to shore? He told someone, "At least I don't have to pay maintenance anymore." He thought it was funny. The yacht sinking is in the Wolf of Wall Street movie. It happened almost exactly as shown. This isn't Hollywood exaggeration. Jordan's recklessness really did sink a yacht. A few months later, Jordan bought another yacht. Jordan Belfort was a serious drug addict during his peak years. I don't use the word addict lightly. He was physically dependent on multiple substances. His drug use was daily, heavy, and life-threatening. Jordan used cocaine every day, multiple times per day. He would snort grams of cocaine per day, which is heavy use by any standard. He used it everywhere, in his office, at home, in his cars, on his yacht, everywhere. He spent approximately $1,000 per day on cocaine. That's $30,000 per month, $365,000 per year, just on cocaine. Stratton Oakmont employed someone whose unofficial job was to supply drugs to Jordan and the other brokers. This person would come to the office and deliver cocaine. It was normalized, Quaaludes were Jordan's drug of choice. His favorite, Quaaludes, also called methaqualone, are a sedative hypnotic drug. They were prescribed as sleeping pills and anxiety medication in the 1960s and 70s. They produce euphoria, relaxation, and loss of inhibition. They're also highly addictive and dangerous. Quaaludes were banned in the United States in 1984 because of abuse and overdoses. By the time Jordan was using them heavily in the 1990s, they were completely illegal in America. But they were still legal in South Africa. Jordan employed someone specifically to smuggle Quaaludes from South Africa. This person would fly to South Africa, buy thousands of pills, and smuggle them back into the United States for Jordan. This cost Jordan approximately $10,000 per shipment. At his peak, Jordan was taking 10 to 15 Quaalude pills per day. This is an insane amount. This is enough to kill many people. Jordan had built up such a tolerance that he needed this much to feel the effects. The Wolf of Wall Street movie has several scenes showing Jordan on Quaaludes. The famous scene where Leonardo DiCaprio crawls to his Lamborghini because he can't walk properly. Jordan says this really happened. Maybe it's exaggerated slightly for comedy, but the essence is true. He really was that high. Jordan also used marijuana regularly. He used morphine during periods when he was trying to quit Quaaludes and dealing with withdrawal. He used Xanax. He drank alcohol excessively, often mixed with drugs, which is extremely dangerous. Jordan's own estimate is that he spent over $1 million per year on drugs during his peak years. I believe this estimate, given the quantities and the sources, $1 million per year is entirely plausible. The drugs nearly killed Jordan multiple times. The helicopter crash. Jordan flew in a helicopter to his estate. He had a helicopter landing pad on his lawn. One time he was high on Quaaludes and attempted to land the helicopter himself. He wasn't the pilot. He crashed it into his lawn. The helicopter was destroyed. He walked away with minor injuries. His response? I'll buy another one. The car crashes. Jordan crashed multiple expensive cars while driving under the influence. He totaled a Lamborghini by driving it into a tree at 80 miles per hour while on Quaaludes. The car was completely destroyed. He was somehow fine. He bought a new Lamborghini the next day. Health issues. By the mid-90s, Jordan was having serious health problems. He was physically dependent on Quaaludes. He couldn't function without them. If he tried to stop, he'd have severe withdrawal symptoms. He was mixing cocaine, which is a stimulant, with Quaaludes, which is a depressant. This combination is extremely dangerous for your heart. His doctor told him, "You're going to die if you don't stop." He didn't stop. Jordan Belfort was married twice during the period we're discussing. Both marriages were dysfunctional. Jordan married Denise Lombardo in 1985 when he was 23 years old. Denise was his girlfriend from before he was rich. She was with him when he was just starting out, struggling, trying to make it. When Jordan started making millions at Stratton Oakmont, his attitude toward Denise changed. She represented his old life, his middle-class life. He wanted to leave that behind. He divorced her in 1991 after 6 years of marriage. The divorce settlement was relatively small because Jordan divorced her before the really huge money started flowing. She got some money, but nothing close to what she would have gotten if they'd divorced a few years later. Jordan's attitude was that Denise was from his before life, and he was moving on to his afterlife. Nadine Caridi was a model. She appeared in Miller Lite beer commercials. She was extremely beautiful by conventional standards. Jordan met her at a party while he was still married to Denise. He began an affair with her. He left Denise for Nadine. Jordan and Nadine married in 1991, the same year he divorced Denise. From the outside, they looked like a power couple. Wealthy, attractive, living in mansions, traveling on yachts. They had 2 children together, a daughter named Chandler, born in 1993, a son named Carter, born in 1996. But the reality inside the marriage was dysfunction. Jordan was cheating on Nadine constantly. Despite being married, he used prostitutes multiple times per week. He had affairs with employees at Stratton Oakmont. He didn't hide this particularly well. Nadine knew. Why did Nadine stay? This is complicated. Some people say she stayed for the money, some say she stayed for the children, some say she was trapped in the lifestyle and couldn't imagine leaving. Nadine herself has said in interviews years later that the money was great, but the lifestyle was destroying both of them. Jordan's drug use was also happening in front of Nadine. She watched him spiral. She watched him take 15 Quaaludes a day. She watched him crash cars. She watched him nearly die multiple times. The children, Chandler and Carter, were very young during Jordan's peak criminal years. They were living in extreme wealth, but they were also witnessing chaos, drug use, fighting, instability. Chandler Belfort, Jordan's daughter, has spoken publicly as an adult about what it was like growing up in that environment. She said it was traumatic. Jordan's attitude during this time was simple. He was rich, he was powerful, he could do whatever he wanted. If he wanted to cheat on his wife, he would. If he wanted to use drugs in front of his family, he would. The normal rules didn't apply to him. This entitlement, this belief that he was above consequences, was central to who Jordan was. I've explained the basic pump and dump scheme. Now I want to go deeper into how Jordan took this to another level with IPO fraud. What is an IPO? IPO stands for Initial Public Offering. This is when a private company decides to become a public company by selling shares to the public for the first time. A legitimate IPO works like this. Let's say you have a private tech company. It's been operating for 10 years. It has real revenue, real employees, real products, real customers. The founders decide they want to raise money by going public. They hire an investment bank like Goldman Sachs. The bank helps them file paperwork with the SEC. They write a prospectus, which is a detailed document explaining what the company does, its financials, its risks, everything. Then they set a price for the shares and start selling to the public. Facebook went public in 2012. That was a legitimate IPO. Facebook was a real company with billions of users and billions in revenue. Stratton Oakmont did fake IPOs. Step 1. Create or find a shell company. Jordan would either find a tiny company that was barely operating, or he'd help create a company from scratch. These were shell companies. They existed on paper but had no real business. Let me give you an example with a fake name. Let's say the company is called Global Health Solutions Inc. Global Health Solutions claims to be developing revolutionary medical technology. Maybe they say they're developing a new drug or a new medical device. In reality, Global Health Solutions has an office with a phone line and maybe 2 employees. They have no product, no revenue, no customers, no real business. It's just paperwork and a dream. Step 2. Write a fake prospectus. For an IPO, you need a prospectus. This is a legal document that's supposed to honestly describe the company for potential investors. Stratton Oakmont would write prospectuses full of lies. Global Health Solutions expects $50 million in revenue next year. There's no basis for this. They have 0 revenue now and no clear path to 50 million. We have patent pending technology. They don't. They filed a patent application, but the technology doesn't work or doesn't exist. Our management team has 50 years of combined experience in the healthcare industry. Maybe the management team is 3 guys who worked in sales at a pharmaceutical company for a few years. These prospectuses looked professional. They had charts, graphs, financial projections. They looked like the prospectuses from real companies. But every page was fiction. Investors trusted these documents because they thought the SEC reviewed them. The SEC does review prospectuses, but they don't verify every claim. They assume companies are being honest. Stratton exploited this. Step 3. Set the IPO price. Jordan would decide to price the shares at, say, $5 each. Why $5? Because it's low enough that regular people can afford to buy a decent number of shares, but it's not so low that it looks like garbage. A stock trading at 10 cents looks sketchy. A stock at $5 looks like a real investment. Step 4. Allocate shares to insiders. Before the IPO goes public, Jordan allocates shares to himself, Danny Porush, and other insiders at Stratton. They buy these shares at $2 or $3 below the IPO price. This is legal in real IPOs if disclosed properly. In Jordan's IPOs, this wasn't disclosed. He was secretly buying huge amounts of stock cheap so he could dump it later. Step 5. The IPO day create a frenzy. On the day of the IPO, Stratton brokers start calling their clients. Mr. Smith, I have incredible news. We're bringing a company public today. This is the biggest IPO of the year. We're only allocating shares to our best clients. This is the next Microsoft. You need to get in right now. Clients buy thousands of shares. The stock opens at $5. Within hours, it's at $8, then $12. It looks like a successful IPO. Step 6. Keep pumping. Over the next weeks, Stratton brokers keep pushing the stock. It's going to be $50. Buy more. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. Jordan and the insiders are also buying more shares, but only to push the price up temporarily. The stock goes to $15, then $20. Clients think they're getting rich. They call their friends. You need to call my broker at Stratton Oakmont. I just made $10,000 in 3 weeks. Step 7. Jordan dumps everything. Jordan bought at $2. The stock is now at $20. He sells every single share. He bought 500,000 shares at $2. Cost $1 million. He sells 500,000 shares at $20. Revenue $10 million. Profit $9 million. 2 to 3 months of work, $9 million. Step 8. The stock crashes. With Jordan and the insiders out, there's no more buying pressure. The stock price collapses. $20 to $5 in a week, then to $2, then to $1, then to 50 cents. Clients who bought at $15 or $20 lose everything. Jordan made millions. They lost everything. Every few months, a new IPO, a new shell company, a new group of victims. This went on for years. Jordan was making $50 to $100 million per year. This created a problem. The IRS wants to know where your money comes from. They want their cut in taxes. Also, if Jordan eventually got caught, prosecutors would try to seize his assets. He needed to hide money. The solution: Swiss bank accounts. Why Switzerland? Swiss banks, historically, had extremely strict secrecy laws. They wouldn't share information about their clients with foreign governments. If the US government asked a Swiss bank, "Does Jordan Belfort have an account with you?" the bank would say, "We cannot confirm or deny Swiss banking secrecy." Swiss banks offered numbered accounts. Instead of an account under Jordan Belfort, you could have an account under a number. No name attached, just a number. This made Swiss banks perfect for hiding money. Method 1. Cash couriers. Jordan would withdraw large amounts of cash from his US bank accounts, $1 or $2 million in cash. He'd give this cash to someone he trusted, a courier. This person would fly to Switzerland. They'd deposit the cash in Jordan's Swiss bank account. There's a problem with this. US law requires you to report if you're taking more than $10,000 in cash out of the country. Jordan's solution? Send multiple couriers, each carrying $9,999, just under the reporting requirement. This is called structuring. It's illegal. It's specifically designed to evade reporting requirements, but Jordan did it anyway. Method 2. Wire transfers through shell companies. Jordan would create a fake company in another country, maybe a company in the Cayman Islands or the British Virgin Islands. He'd wire money from Stratton Oakmont to this fake company, claiming it was for consulting services or business expenses. The fake company would then wire the money to a Swiss bank account. The layers made it hard to trace. By the time investigators followed the money, it had gone through 3 or 4 companies in 3 or 4 countries. Method 3. Family members as nominees. This is the method that eventually got Jordan caught. Jordan's second wife, Nadine, had an aunt named Patricia. Patricia lived in the United Kingdom. Jordan convinced Patricia to open Swiss bank accounts in her name. Patricia would be the nominee. Her name would be on the account, but the money was actually Jordan's. This way, even if investigators found the account, it wouldn't be in Jordan's name. It would look like Patricia's money. Jordan funneled tens of millions of dollars through Patricia's accounts. This is illegal, it's hiding beneficial ownership, but Patricia agreed to do it, likely because Jordan paid her. How much did Jordan hide? It's estimated that Jordan hid $50 to $100 million in Swiss and other offshore accounts. The FBI eventually found some of this money, but Jordan claims they didn't find all of it. He's hinted in interviews that he still has money hidden somewhere that the government never recovered. Whether that's true or just Jordan bragging, I don't know. As Jordan made more money, his spending became more absurd. Office parties at Stratton Oakmont. Every Friday, Stratton Oakmont had an office party. Free alcohol for everyone. Strippers were hired to come to the office. Drugs were available. Brokers would celebrate big sales. Sometimes they did stunts for entertainment. The dwarf tossing I mentioned earlier. They'd hire little people and throw them for fun. This really happened. It's disgusting, but it's documented. Jordan saw these parties as motivation. Keep the brokers happy and high, and they'll sell more stocks on Monday. Yacht parties. Jordan would invite clients, brokers, and friends to his yacht for multi-day parties. Unlimited alcohol, unlimited drugs. Prostitutes would be flown in from different countries. These parties cost over $100,000 each. Jordan didn't care. He was making millions per month. Vegas trips. Stratton Oakmont would rent private jets and fly 50 to 100 brokers to Las Vegas. They'd stay at the best hotels in massive suites. They'd gamble enormous amounts. Jordan himself would gamble hundreds of thousands in a weekend. Drugs and prostitutes everywhere. Jordan justified this as keeping morale high. Keep the brokers feeling like rock stars, and they'll work harder to make him money. Jordan's own estimate is that he spent $3 to $5 million per year just on entertainment, not counting his real estate, cars, or yacht, just parties, drugs, prostitutes, and gambling. Drugs, $1 million per year. Prostitutes, $500,000 per year. Parties, $2 million per year. Gambling losses, $1 million per year. This is money burned purely for pleasure. While Jordan was spending $5 million a year partying, his clients were losing their life savings. A victim named Robert lost $47,000. His retirement, he had to go back to work at 72 years old. Jordan spent more on a single yacht party than Robert saved in 40 years. Jordan didn't care. He never thought about the victims. To him, they weren't real people. They were marks, suckers. They existed to fund his lifestyle. One victim testified in court. I called my broker at Stratton Oakmont crying. I told him I lost $80,000, my entire retirement. He laughed at me and hung up the phone. This was the culture Jordan created. The Wolf of Wall Street movie barely shows the victims. Maybe you see 2 brief scenes where someone is upset about losing money. That's it. The movie doesn't focus on them. I'm going to focus on them, because they're the reason this story matters. Jordan didn't target wealthy people. Wealthy people are sophisticated. They have accountants and financial advisors. They're harder to fool. Jordan didn't target poor people. Poor people don't have significant savings to steal. Jordan targeted the middle class. Teachers, nurses, small business owners, police officers, retirees, tradesmen, people making $40,000 to $100,000 per year, people who had saved $20,000 to $200,000 over decades of work. These people had enough money to be worth stealing, but they didn't have enough financial knowledge to spot the fraud. They knew what stocks were. They had 401ks. They watched the news about the stock market. They knew investing was how you built wealth, but they didn't understand the mechanics of penny stocks, pump and dump schemes, offshore accounts. They trusted people who sounded professional. That trust destroyed them. According to court documents, Stratton Oakmont defrauded between 1,500 and 2,000 individual investors. Total amount stolen, over $200 million. Average loss per person, $100,000 to $150,000. Some people lost $10,000, some lost $500,000. These stories come from court testimony and interviews. These are real people. Names have been slightly changed for privacy in some cases, but the details are accurate. Robert taught high school history for 40 years in New Jersey. He retired in 1992 at age 65. He had saved $180,000 over his career. Not a fortune, but enough to retire comfortably with his pension and Social Security. In 1994, Robert got a call from a broker at Stratton Oakmont. The broker pitched him on a medical technology company, said it was going to triple in a year. Robert was cautious. He said he needed to think about it. The broker called him every day for a week. High pressure, creating urgency, making Robert feel like he'd be a fool to miss this opportunity. Robert invested $150,000, most of his savings. The stock went up initially. Robert was excited. He thought he'd made a smart decision. 3 months later, the stock crashed. Robert's $150,000 was worth $8,000. He lost $142,000. Robert called his broker in a panic. The broker didn't answer. Robert called Stratton Oakmont repeatedly. Nobody would talk to him. Eventually, someone told him, "You understood the risks. We're not responsible for market fluctuations." Robert was devastated. He had to sell his house because he couldn't afford the property taxes. He moved in with his daughter and her family. He went back to work at age 68 as a substitute teacher. Then, when that didn't pay enough, he worked as a Walmart greeter. Robert died in 2006 at age 79. He was still broke, still bitter. In his victim impact statement at Jordan's sentencing, Robert wrote, "I worked my whole life. I was careful with money. I saved every penny I could. I thought I was investing with a real Wall Street firm. I thought I was being smart. I lost everything. My wife cried every single day. We couldn't afford to go out to dinner. We couldn't afford to buy Christmas presents for our grandchildren. Jordan Belfort destroyed my retirement and my dignity." Jordan served 22 months in prison. Linda was a nurse in Florida. She was divorced and raising 2 kids alone. In 1992, her father died and left her $85,000. Linda had plans for this money. She wanted to save it for her kids' college education. Her daughter wanted to be a teacher. Her son wanted to be an engineer. College was expensive. The $85,000 would cover most of it if she invested wisely. A broker from Stratton Oakmont called her in 1993, told her about a technology company that was guaranteed to double in 6 months. Linda was skeptical. She said, "This sounds too good to be true." The broker said, "Linda, you're a smart woman. You're a nurse. You know how hard you have to work for money. This is your chance to make your money work for you. Your kids deserve to go to college, don't they?" Linda invested $75,000. The stock crashed. She lost $71,000. Her kids didn't go to college. Her daughter went to community college for 2 years and then dropped out to work full-time as a receptionist. Her son never went to college at all. He works in construction. Linda went bankrupt in 1998. She worked 2 jobs for years to pay off debt. In an interview years later, Linda said, "My kids deserve better. I was trying to be smart with the money my father left me. He worked his whole life in a factory to save that money, and I destroyed it. I destroyed my kids' future. I destroyed my father's legacy, all because I trusted a man on the phone who said he was from Wall Street." Jordan made millions. Linda's kids never went to college. James and Mary owned a small hardware store in Pennsylvania. They'd owned it for 30 years. They worked 6 days a week. They made a decent living. Not rich, but comfortable. By 1995, they had saved $300,000. They were planning to retire, sell the business, and move to Florida. A Stratton Oakmont broker called James. Over the course of 2 years, the broker sold James and Mary on multiple stocks. Each time, the stocks crashed. By 1997, they'd invested $250,000. They'd lost $220,000. They couldn't retire. They sold the business for less than they'd hoped because the business was struggling and they needed money immediately. They didn't move to Florida. They're both in their late 70s now and still working part-time jobs. James said in court, "We trusted them because they sounded professional. We believed we were investing in real companies. We were fools. Jordan Belfort stole our retirement. We'll never forgive him." Michael was a police officer in New York. He'd saved $47,000 over 15 years. He was planning to use this money as a down payment on a house for his wife and 2 kids. They were renting, and he wanted to give them a real home. In 1992, a Stratton broker called him, pitched him on a stock that would double in 6 months, told him, "You'll be able to buy your house in cash." Michael invested $40,000. The stock crashed. He lost $38,000. Michael couldn't buy the house. His family continued renting. The financial stress destroyed his marriage. Michael says his wife blamed him for the loss. They fought constantly about money. They divorced in 1996. Michael says, "I was trying to give my family a better life. I'm a cop. I risk my life every day to protect people. And I got scammed by a criminal in a suit. I lost my money, I lost my marriage, I lost everything. And Jordan Belfort went to prison for 22 months, and now he's rich again. Where's the justice?" Every victim was an ordinary person. Every victim trusted a broker who sounded professional. Every victim lost life-changing amounts of money. Every victim suffered for years or decades. Some victims never recovered financially. Some are still working in their 70s and 80s because they lost their retirement. And Jordan Belfort served 22 months in prison. The financial loss was devastating, but the emotional and psychological impact was worse in some ways. Many victims reported severe depression after losing their money. They felt stupid, they felt ashamed, they felt like they'd failed their families. Some required therapy, some were prescribed antidepressants. At least 2 victims are documented as having contemplated suicide after losing their savings. Losing your life savings doesn't just hurt your bank account, it hurts your sense of self. These people had worked their entire lives, they'd been responsible, they'd saved, they'd done everything right, and in a few months, it was gone. The psychological damage is profound. Multiple victims reported that their marriages ended because of the financial stress. When you lose your retirement, when you lose your kids' college fund, when you lose the down payment on your house, the stress is overwhelming. Couples fight about money, they blame each other, they can't see a way forward. Several victims explicitly stated in court documents that their divorces were directly caused by the financial devastation from Stratton Oakmont. Children were affected, kids couldn't go to college, kids grew up watching their parents fight about money, kids internalized the stress and trauma. The damage rippled through entire families. Victims felt ashamed. They felt like they should have known better. They felt stupid for falling for the scam. This shame prevented many victims from talking about what happened. They didn't tell friends. They didn't tell other family members. They suffered in silence. This shame also meant fewer people warned others. If victims had spoken out more, maybe others wouldn't have fallen for the same scam. But shame kept them quiet. The stress caused physical health problems for some victims. At least 3 victims had heart attacks in the months following their financial losses. Doctors said the stress was a contributing factor. Stress affects your heart, your blood pressure, your immune system. Some victims believe the stress shortened their lives. When Jordan Belfort was sentenced in 2003, the court ordered him to pay $110.4 million in restitution to his victims. This is what was left after the government seized some of Jordan's assets. The original amount stolen was over $200 million, but some was already recovered. The remaining $110 million was what Jordan personally owed. As of 2024, Jordan has paid approximately $14 million. That's 12.7% of what he owes. He still owes $96 million. He will never pay it. After Jordan was released from prison in 2006, he claimed he had no significant assets. He claimed bankruptcy. He said most of his money was seized by the government or lost. But Jordan lives in a $4 million mansion in Los Angeles. He drives luxury cars. He travels the world. He wears expensive clothes. Where does he get the money? He makes millions of dollars per year from speaking engagements, courses, books, and consulting. But legally, he's structured his income in ways that minimize what goes to victims. He pays himself through business entities. He claims these payments are living expenses. After living expenses, there's supposedly not much left for restitution. This is legal, but it's morally bankrupt. The court order says he must pay 50% of his income to victims. But if he structures his income through businesses and claims high expenses, the 50% is calculated on a much smaller number. Victims see Jordan on TV. They see him on Instagram posting photos from beaches and resorts. They see him advertising his courses for $5,000. They see him living in luxury, and they're still struggling. Quotes from victims. I'm 75 years old, and I'm still working because Jordan Belfort stole my retirement. I see him on Instagram at the beach in Malibu. Where's the justice? He owes me $85,000. I see him selling courses for $5,000. Why isn't that money coming to me? Why am I working 2 jobs while he's living like a king? My kids couldn't go to college because of him. His kids live in a mansion. The system is completely broken. Victims can sue Jordan. Some have tried, but collecting money is nearly impossible. He's hidden assets. He's structured his income through entities. He claims he doesn't have the money. Courts have limited ability to force payment. they can garnish wages, but if the money is flowing through businesses, it's complicated. Victims are essentially powerless. The financial loss was bad enough, but watching Jordan Belfort become rich again is torture for victims. It's one thing to lose money to a criminal who goes to prison and stays broke. At least there's some justice in that. But Jordan went to prison for 22 months, came out, and became a millionaire again by being famous for his crimes. This adds insult to injury. It makes victims feel like the system completely failed them. It makes them feel like crime truly does pay if you're wealthy and connected. Several victims have said in interviews that watching Jordan's second career is more painful than the original financial loss. By the early 1990s, Stratton Oakmont was attracting attention. Not the good kind. The NASD, the National Association of Securities Dealers, which is the self-regulatory body for the brokerage industry, started receiving complaints about Stratton Oakmont in 1992 and 1993. Investors were calling and writing letters. I was lied to. The broker told me the stock was guaranteed to go up and it crashed. I lost my life savings. This firm is fraudulent. The NASD investigated. They found violations. They fined Stratton Oakmont multiple times. Jordan paid the fines. He didn't care. To him, fines were just a cost of doing business. But the NASD didn't have the power to shut Stratton Oakmont down entirely. They could fine them, they could censure them, but they couldn't arrest anyone. They couldn't bring criminal charges. For that, you need federal law enforcement. In 1994, the FBI's New York office opened an investigation into Stratton Oakmont. Securities fraud is a federal crime. If you lie to investors to steal their money, that's a federal offense. The FBI has jurisdiction. The lead FBI agent on the case was a man named Gregory Coleman. This is a real person. In the Wolf of Wall Street movie, Kyle Chandler plays an FBI agent based on Coleman. Coleman and his team had a challenge. They knew Stratton Oakmont was committing fraud. They had investor complaints, but they needed hard evidence. They needed proof that would hold up in court. The FBI used several tactics to build their case. Wiretaps. The FBI got a court order to wiretap the phones at Stratton Oakmont. This required them to show a judge that there was probable cause to believe crimes were being committed. They got the warrant. They planted wiretaps on the phones. For months, the FBI recorded thousands of phone calls, brokers lying to clients, Jordan giving orders, discussions about pump and dump schemes, discussions about money laundering, discussions about hiding assets. These recordings became crucial evidence. Surveillance. FBI agents physically watched Jordan, Danny Porush, and other key figures. They followed them. They watched the Stratton Oakmont office. They documented Jordan's lifestyle. They took photos of his mansions, his cars, his yacht. This was evidence of unexplained wealth. If Jordan claimed he was making his money legally, why did he need a $22 million yacht? Financial analysis. FBI forensic accountants traced Jordan's money. They looked at bank records. They followed wire transfers. They identified offshore accounts. They built a financial map of where the money was going. Flipping witnesses. This is one of the most effective tactics in any criminal investigation. The FBI approached lower-level employees at Stratton Oakmont. They said, "You're going to prison, you're facing 20 years, but if you cooperate, if you testify against Jordan, we can get you a reduced sentence. Maybe you serve 5 years instead of 20, maybe even less." Several people accepted this deal. Brokers who felt guilty, employees who were facing serious charges themselves, people who hated Jordan or Danny and wanted revenge. These witnesses provided insider testimony. They explained how the scams worked. They confirmed that Jordan and Danny were ordering everyone to lie to clients. They provided documents. This insider testimony was devastating. The FBI knew Jordan had hidden money in Swiss bank accounts. They'd learned this from wiretaps and from witnesses. The problem was they couldn't access the accounts. Swiss banking secrecy laws prevented Swiss banks from sharing information with foreign governments. The FBI contacted Swiss authorities and requested assistance under a mutual legal assistance treaty. This is an agreement between countries to cooperate on serious criminal investigations. Initially, Swiss authorities refused. Swiss banking secrecy was sacred. They wouldn't violate it. But the FBI provided evidence that Jordan's crimes were serious. Over $200 million stolen. Thousands of victims. This wasn't a minor tax issue. This was massive fraud. Swiss authorities investigated internally. They found Jordan's accounts. They found accounts in the names of his wife's family members that were actually controlled by Jordan. In a rare move, Swiss authorities shared this information with the FBI. This was a breakthrough. It proved money laundering. It proved Jordan was hiding assets. It proved he was evading taxes. In September 1998, a federal grand jury indicted Jordan Belfort. The charges included securities fraud, multiple counts, money laundering, multiple counts, conspiracy, obstruction of justice. Total, over 30 criminal charges. Maximum possible sentence, over 20 years in federal prison, plus restitution of over $200 million. Also indicted, Danny Porush and over 20 other Stratton Oakmont employees, all facing serious prison time. FBI agents arrested Jordan at his mansion in Long Island. They showed up early in the morning. They handcuffed him in front of his wife and children. His children, Chandler and Carter, were very young. They watched their father get arrested. This was traumatic for them. Jordan's reaction, according to his own book, was shock. He said he truly believed he'd never get caught. He thought he was too smart. He thought his lawyers could protect him. He thought the Swiss accounts made him untouchable. He was wrong. After his arrest, Jordan faced a decision. Option 1. Go to trial, fight the charges, claim he didn't commit fraud, claim he was just a salesman and didn't know the stocks were worthless, claim he's innocent. The problem with this option, the evidence against him was overwhelming. The FBI had wiretapped recordings of him explicitly ordering fraud. They had witnesses who would testify against him. They had financial records proving money laundering. If he went to trial, he would almost certainly lose. And if he lost at trial, the judge could sentence him to the maximum 20-plus years in federal prison. Jordan would be 56 years old when released. His children would be adults. He'd miss their entire childhoods. Option 2. Plead guilty and cooperate. Admit to everything. Testify against Danny Porush, his brokers, his employees, everyone. Wear a wire and record conversations with former associates. Provide documents and evidence to help the FBI convict others. In exchange, he'd get what's called substantial assistance credit. This is a major sentence reduction for helping prosecutors. Instead of 20 years, maybe he'd serve 4 or 5 years, maybe even less. Jordan chose to cooperate. This was entirely about self-preservation. Jordan had no loyalty to anyone. If betraying everyone around him would save his own skin, he'd do it without hesitation. Jordan wore a wire. He met with former associates and secretly recorded them while they discussed illegal activities. These recordings helped the FBI build cases against others. He testified in multiple trials. He sat on the witness stand and explained how the fraud worked. He pointed to Danny Porush and others and said, "Yes, we did this together." He provided documents, bank records, internal memos, evidence of pump and dump schemes. He helped the FBI understand the full scope of the fraud. Danny Porush felt betrayed. He'd been Jordan's partner for years. Now Jordan was testifying against him to save himself. Other employees were furious. Some also cooperated to save themselves. Some went to trial and lost. Danny Porush eventually pleaded guilty as well. He was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Jordan pleaded guilty in 1999, but his sentencing was delayed for years while he continued cooperating. Finally, in 2003, Jordan was sentenced. The judge sentenced him to 4 years in federal prison, 4 years for stealing $200 million, for destroying thousands of lives. This caused immediate outrage. Victims in the courtroom screamed at the judge, "4 years? Are you serious? He destroyed my life. 4 years?" The judge explained that the sentence was reduced because of Jordan's cooperation. He helped convict many other people. Under federal sentencing guidelines, cooperation gets you a major reduction. Legally, this made sense. Morally, it was offensive. Victims felt betrayed by the justice system. 4 years? For this level of destruction? Jordan Belfort was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. He ended up serving even less time than Jordan was sent to federal prison camp in Taft, California. This is a minimum security facility. Why minimum security? Because Jordan wasn't violent, he wasn't considered a physical threat. He cooperated. White-collar criminals who cooperate usually go to minimum security camps. Taft Prison Camp is nicknamed Camp Taft because it's relatively easy compared to real prisons. There are no bars on the windows, no cells. It's more like a college dormitory. Inmates at Camp Taft live in dormitory-style rooms, not cells, rooms with bunk beds, multiple people per room, but it's not a cage. Jordan had a job in prison. He taught GED classes to other inmates who didn't have high school diplomas. Inmates wear regular clothes, not orange jumpsuits. You can walk around the facility. There's a yard where you can exercise. There's a library. There are educational programs. Obviously, you can't leave. It's still prison. But compared to maximum security prisons where violent criminals are locked in cells 23 hours a day, Camp Taft is like a vacation. Jordan was sentenced to 4 years, which is 48 months. He served 22 months. He was released early for good behavior and cooperation credit. 22 months, less than 2 years, for stealing $200 million. In his book, Jordan minimized his prison experience. He wrote something to the effect of, "Prison wasn't that bad. I taught classes, I worked out, I read books. It was like a timeout." Victims read this and were enraged. A timeout? He destroyed lives and he calls it a timeout? One true story from Jordan's time in prison. He met Tommy Chong. Tommy Chong is the comedian from Cheech and Chong. Tommy was in federal prison at the same time as Jordan for marijuana-related charges. They became friends. Tommy suggested to Jordan, "You should write a book about your life. Your story is crazy. People would read it." This planted the seed for what became the Wolf of Wall Street memoir. Tommy Chong indirectly helped Jordan make millions after prison. Jordan was released from prison in 2006. He was 43 years old. The court ordered Jordan to pay $110.4 million in restitution to his victims. This was non-negotiable. He was required to pay this back. Additionally, the court ordered that 50% of Jordan's income must go toward restitution until it's fully paid. So, if Jordan makes $100,000 in a year, $50,000 must go to victims. Jordan was also banned from working in the securities industry for life. He could never be a stockbroker again. He was on supervised release for several years, which means he had to check in with a probation officer regularly. Jordan was supposed to pay back $110 million. He's paid approximately $14 million as of 2024. Where's the rest? Jordan claims he doesn't have it. He claims most of his assets were seized by the government. He claims he's not making enough money to pay more. But Jordan lives in a $4 million mansion. He drives expensive cars. He travels constantly. How? Jordan structures his income through business entities. He owns companies that pay him a salary. The companies have expenses. After expenses, there's not much profit left, legally speaking. So when the government calculates 50% of his income, it's 50% of a much smaller number than his actual lifestyle would suggest. This is legal. He has smart lawyers, but it's morally bankrupt. Victims can't do anything about it. They can sue him, but collecting is nearly impossible. He structured everything to minimize what he legally owes at any given time. In 2007, Jordan published his memoir, The Wolf of Wall Street. The book is Jordan's version of his story. He admits to crimes, he describes the excess, he talks about the drugs, the parties, the fraud. The book was a bestseller. Jordan got a significant advance from the publisher, plus royalties. Combined, he made millions of dollars from this book. This money should have gone to victims. 50% of his income is supposed to go to restitution. But Jordan structured the book deal through a business entity. He claimed the entity owned the rights, the entity paid him a salary. After expenses, there wasn't much left for restitution. Victims and prosecutors complained, "This is a man profiting from his crimes. He's writing about the crimes he committed and making millions." Jordan's lawyers argued it was legal. The book was purchased years after his crimes. He's allowed to work. He's allowed to write. Legally, they were right. Morally, it's disgusting. In 2013, The Wolf of Wall Street movie was released. Martin Scorsese directed it. Leonardo DiCaprio starred. Budget $100 million. The movie made $400 million worldwide. Jordan was paid for the film rights to his book. Estimates are that he made over $1 million from the movie deal. Again, this should have gone to victims. Again, he structured it legally to minimize restitution payments. The movie made Jordan Belfort famous. Again, not infamous, famous. People saw Leonardo DiCaprio playing Jordan and thought, this guy is cool. He lived an insane life. College kids dressed up as Jordan for Halloween. His quotes became memes. He became a cultural icon. This is exactly the opposite of what should have happened. He should be known as a cautionary tale. Instead, he became aspirational. Victims were furious. They said the movie glorified Jordan's crimes. Jordan said, the movie shows the consequences. I went to prison. My life fell apart. But does it? The movie shows 3 hours of partying and excess and fun. It shows 20 minutes of consequences. What's the takeaway for most viewers? Critics said the movie made white-collar crime look fun and consequence-free, and it made Jordan rich again. After Jordan was released from prison, he needed a career. He was banned from the securities industry. He couldn't be a stockbroker, Titadosks. But he had one skill. He was an exceptional salesman. He'd trained thousands of brokers. He knew how to sell. So Jordan reinvented himself as a motivational speaker and sales trainer. In 2008 and 2009, Jordan started giving speeches. Initially, these were small events, sales conferences, corporate training sessions. I was one of the best salesmen on Wall Street. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I went to prison, but I learned lessons. I can teach you how to sell. I can teach you the techniques that made me millions. He marketed himself as a sales expert, not a criminal. He downplayed the fraud. He focused on the sales skills. By the 2010s, Jordan was charging $30,000 to $100,000 per speech. Corporate events would pay him $50,000 to $100,000 to speak for an hour. Seminars. Jordan hosts seminars where attendees pay $5,000 to $5,000 to learn his sales system. Online courses. Jordan sells courses online for $997 to $5,000. Coaching programs. Private coaching with Jordan or his team can cost $10,000 or more. Jordan calls his system straight line persuasion. This is a sales methodology he trademarked. What is it? Essentially, it's the same high-pressure sales tactics he used to defraud people, but now it's packaged as legitimate sales training. He teaches how to control a sales conversation, how to overcome objections, how to create urgency, how to close deals, how to manipulate psychology. Everything he did to defraud people, he now teaches to salespeople. The techniques are legal if you're selling a legitimate product, but they're the exact same techniques he used criminally. Sales organizations, real estate companies, entrepreneurs, corporations that want to improve their sales. Many of these companies don't know or don't care about Jordan's criminal past. They just know he's famous from the movie and he's a good speaker. Critics say Jordan is profiting from being a criminal. He became famous by stealing $200 million. Now he's making millions teaching people how to sell. Jordan's defense, I served my time, I paid my debt to society, I'm allowed to work. What do you want me to do? Work at McDonald's. I have skills, I'm using them. Victim's response, you owe us $96 million. Every dollar you make should go to us. Instead, you're living in a mansion and we're still struggling. As of 2024, Jordan Belfort lives in Manhattan Beach, California. This is an extremely wealthy beach community in Los Angeles. Jordan owns a house worth over $4 million. It's right on the beach, ocean views, luxury neighborhood. Luxury cars, though not as flashy as his 1990s excess. He drives a Mercedes, a Range Rover, expensive but not supercars. He learned that flaunting wealth attracts attention. Jordan divorced his second wife Nadine in 2005. The marriage didn't survive his crimes and prison sentence. He remarried in 2015 to a woman named Ann Cope. This is his third wife. They have children together. Jordan also maintains some relationship with his children from his second marriage, Chandler and Carter. This relationship is complicated. Chandler has spoken publicly about how difficult it was growing up with Jordan as a father. Estimates vary, but Jordan likely makes between $3 and $7 million per year from speaking fees, $2 to $5 million per year, book royalties. Ongoing income from sales of his books, online courses and seminars, 1 to 2 million per year. He's rich again. Not as rich as the 1990s, but he's a multi-millionaire. Jordan has over 1 million followers on Instagram. He posts regularly, photos of him at the beach, photos from his travels, motivational quotes, ads for his courses. His brand is sales expert and entrepreneur. He rarely mentions convicted felon who stole $200 million. Victims see Jordan on TV interviews. They see him on social media living well. They see him advertising courses for $5,000. They see him at beach resorts. They're 70 or 80 years old and still working because they lost their retirement to Jordan. These are from real interviews and court statements. I'm 75 years old. I should be retired. Instead, I'm working at a grocery store stocking shelves. I see Jordan Belfort on Instagram at some resort in Bali. Where's the justice? He owes me $50,000. I see him selling a course for $5,000, and I think that's my money. That money should be coming to me. He owes me $85,000, but I can't do anything about it. My kids couldn't go to college because of him. They're working minimum wage jobs. Jordan's kids live in a $4 million house on the beach. The system is completely broken. Victims have tried to sue Jordan. Some have gotten small settlements over the years, but collecting significant money is nearly impossible. Jordan's assets are protected through legal structures. His income flows through business entities with expenses. His lawyers are excellent at minimizing his legal exposure. Victims feel powerless. They can't force him to pay. The government isn't aggressively pursuing collection. He's essentially getting away with it. Victims say that seeing Jordan succeed again is even more painful than the original loss. Losing money to a criminal who then suffers consequences is one thing. At least there's justice. But Jordan didn't suffer. 22 months in a minimum security camp. Then he became rich again by being famous for his crimes. It's torture for victims. Every time they see him on TV or social media, it's a reminder that the system failed them. One victim said, "I lost my money in 1994. 30 years ago, I'm still angry. And every time I see Jordan Belfort's face, that anger comes back. He destroyed my life and he's living like a king. There's no justice." Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street is a well-made film. It's entertaining, the performances are excellent, but it's important to understand what it got right and what it got wrong. The excess, the parties, the drugs, the yachts, the insane spending, all of that is accurate. Jordan really did live like that. The movie didn't exaggerate the excess. Dwarf tossing, yes, this really happened. Stratton Oakmont really hired little people and threw them for entertainment. Disgusting but true. The office culture, the chaotic energy of the Stratton Oakmont office, the phones ringing constantly, the music blasting, the competitive atmosphere. The movie captured this accurately. The sales tactics, the high-pressure cold calls, the scripts, the psychological manipulation. The movie shows this pretty accurately. The sell me this pen exercise is something Jordan really did. The yacht sinking. This really happened in 1996. Jordan's yacht sank in a storm in the Mediterranean because he was too high to listen to his captain's warnings. The Italian Navy rescued them. The movie shows this accurately. The FBI investigation. The FBI really did wiretap Stratton Oakmont. They really did surveil Jordan. They really did build a case over years. This part of the movie is accurate. The cooperation, Jordan really did cooperate with prosecutors. He really did wear a wire and record his former associates. He really did testify against everyone to save himself. The movie shows this. The Quaalude scene in the movie, Leonardo DiCaprio takes Quaaludes and can barely move. He crawls to his car, his body doesn't work right. Jordan says this really happened to him. He was that high. Is it exaggerated slightly for comedy? Maybe. But the essence is true. The chest thumbing and humming in the movie, Matthew McConaughey's character teaches Jordan this weird ritual where they hum and thump their chests before the market opens. This was based on a real broker named Mark Hanna who did this. Some brokers really did rituals like this. The biggest problem with the movie is that it focuses on the excess and downplays the fraud. The movie is 3 hours long. Maybe 90% of the runtime is parties, drugs, yachts, sex, and fun. Maybe 10% is the actual mechanics of the fraud and the consequences. This creates an imbalance. Viewers remember the fun parts. They don't remember the fraud. They don't remember the victims. The movie makes Jordan seem like a charming rogue who partied too hard, not a calculating criminal who destroyed thousands of lives. The movie barely shows the victims. There are maybe 2 brief scenes where people are upset about losing money. That's it. In reality, there were 1,500 to 2,000 victims. People lost their retirements, lost their kids' college funds, went bankrupt, got divorced, some contemplated suicide. The movie doesn't show this. It doesn't emphasize that Jordan's lifestyle was funded by destroying ordinary people. This makes the crime seem victimless. It's not. The movie makes it feel like Jordan's rise and fall happened over 3 or 4 years, fast-paced and intense. In reality, Stratton Oakmont operated from 1989 to 1998, almost 10 years. The fraud happened slowly, methodically, over a decade. The movie compresses this for dramatic effect, which makes it feel more like a wild ride than a calculated, long-term criminal enterprise. Leonardo DiCaprio's performance is excellent, but he makes Jordan likable, charming, funny, charismatic. The real Jordan Belfort was manipulative and cruel. He didn't care about his victims. He mocked people who lost money. He was mean to employees. Former Stratton employees have said Jordan wasn't funny or charming. He was a bully. He'd fire people for fun. He'd humiliate people. Leo's performance makes Jordan seem way better than he actually was. Margot Robbie plays Naomi, who's based on Jordan's second wife, Nadine. In the movie, she's materialistic but somewhat innocent, like she doesn't fully understand what Jordan is doing. In reality, Nadine knew. She benefited from the money. She wasn't criminally charged, but she was complicit in enjoying the lifestyle funded by fraud. The movie softens her character. Jonah Hill plays Donnie Azoff, based on Danny Porush. In the movie, Donnie is goofy and comedic. He's Jordan's silly sidekick. The real Danny Porush was smart and ruthless. He was Jordan's partner in crime. He made millions too. He went to prison for 4 years. He wasn't a goofy sidekick. He was a serious criminal. The movie makes him seem less dangerous than he was. The movie ends with Jordan in New Zealand teaching a sales seminar. The implication is that he's doing okay. He's learned some lessons. He's moved on. What the movie doesn't show is Jordan's current life. He's not just doing okay. He's making millions of dollars per year. He lives in a $4 million mansion. He owes $96 million to victims and isn't paying. The movie ends before showing that crime actually did pay for Jordan. His current life. The movie ends in the early 2000s. It doesn't show his second career as a motivational speaker making millions. The victim's ongoing suffering. The movie doesn't show that victims are still struggling today, 30 years after being defrauded. The injustice of his punishment. 22 months for $200 million theft. The movie doesn't emphasize how absurd this is, how he kept money. Swiss accounts, hidden assets, legal structures. The movie touches on Swiss accounts but doesn't show how Jordan successfully kept much of his money. His complete lack of remorse. Jordan still minimizes his crimes. He still doesn't seem to grasp the harm he caused. The movie doesn't show this clearly. Martin Scorsese has said he wanted to show the corruption of Wall Street. He wanted to show how greed destroys. But did he glorify it? Some critics think yes. The movie is so entertaining, so fun to watch, that it accidentally makes Jordan's lifestyle look appealing. Other critics think viewers should be smart enough to see the moral message. The reality is, different viewers took different messages. Some saw it as a cautionary tale. Others thought Jordan was cool and wanted to emulate him. The movie's impact. It made Jordan Belfort more famous and more profitable. Let's cut through everything and talk about who Jordan Belfort really is. In interviews, Jordan says things like, "I made mistakes. I was young and addicted to drugs. The drugs clouded my judgment. If I'd been sober, I wouldn't have done what I did. I've paid my debt to society. I served my time. I'm not that person anymore. I'm helping people now with my sales training. I'm using my knowledge for good. The victims will eventually be paid. I'm working on it." This is his narrative. He's reformed. He's learned. He's a different person. Jordan stole over $200 million deliberately over nearly 10 years. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. This was calculated, systematic fraud. Court transcripts show Jordan explicitly discussing how to defraud clients. He knew exactly what he was doing. The drugs didn't cause this. His character did. He's paid $14 million of the $110 million he owes. That's 12.7% in 18 years since his release. At this rate, he'll be dead before he pays half. He's making millions per year and living in luxury while owing victims $96 million. If he was serious about paying them back, he'd sell his mansion and live modestly. He doesn't. He profits from his criminal fame. Every dollar he makes from speaking and courses is because he's famous for being a criminal. During Jordan's trial, the prosecutor said something like this, and I'm paraphrasing. Jordan Belfort is one of the most successful con men in American history. He stole hundreds of millions, and the most impressive con of all is convincing people now that he's reformed. He's not reformed. He's doing the same thing he always did. He's just selling something legal now. Legally? Yes. He's not committing securities fraud anymore. He's not running pump and dump schemes. He's not laundering money through Swiss accounts. Morally? I don't think so. He still prioritizes money over victims. He still uses manipulative sales tactics. He still minimizes the harm he caused. He still lives in luxury while owing millions. He's the same person. He's just operating within legal boundaries now. Jordan Belfort is living proof that the criminal justice system fails when it comes to white-collar crime. Jordan stole $200 million. He destroyed thousands of lives. He should have been sentenced to decades in prison. He got 4 years. He served 22 months. This sends a clear message. If you're going to commit a crime, make it a financial crime. Steal millions. The punishment is minimal. Compare this to drug crimes. People have served longer sentences for possessing marijuana than Jordan served for stealing $200 million. The system values property over people when it comes to white-collar crime. Jordan was ordered to pay $110 million. He's paid $14 million. He owes $96 million. There's no mechanism to force him to pay. The court can garnish wages, but if he structures his income through businesses, the garnishment is minimal. Victims have no recourse. They can't force payment. They're powerless. This is a fundamental flaw in the system. Restitution orders are meaningless if they're not enforceable. Jordan has made millions from his book, the movie rights, and his speaking career. All of this is based on his criminal fame. He became rich, committed massive fraud, went to prison, and became rich again by being famous for the fraud. Should this be legal? Many countries have son of Sam laws that prevent criminals from profiting from their crimes through book deals and media rights. The US has these laws too, but they're weak and easily circumvented through legal structures. Jordan's lawyers structured his deals so that technically he's not profiting from crime, he's selling a service or licensing intellectual property. Legally, maybe. Morally, he's profiting from being a famous criminal. The SEC and NASD knew about Stratton Oakmont for years. They received complaints, they investigated, they fined the firm, but they didn't shut it down for years. Why? Regulatory capture, lack of resources, lack of will. The system is designed to regulate, not to aggressively stop fraud. By the time Stratton was shut down, $200 million was already stolen. Better oversight could have prevented much of this. What should we learn from Jordan Belfort's story? If it sounds too good to be true, it is. If someone calls you and says a stock is guaranteed to triple, hang up. There are no guarantees in investing. Anyone promising guaranteed returns is lying. High-pressure sales are a red flag. If someone is pressuring you to invest immediately, to act now or miss out, that's a manipulation tactic. Legitimate investments don't require immediate decisions. Research before investing. Check if the broker is licensed. Look up the company. Is it real? Does it have revenue? Get a second opinion from a financial advisor you trust. Don't invest money you can't afford to lose. Never invest your retirement savings in risky stocks. Never put your kids' college fund in penny stocks. Diversify. Use legitimate firms like Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab. White-collar crime needs harsher punishment. 22 months for $200 million theft is a joke. This should be 20 years minimum. The current system incentivizes crime because the risk-reward ratio is in the criminal's favor. Restitution should be enforceable. Victims should be paid before the criminal can live in luxury. There should be aggressive asset seizure and income garnishment. No mansion until victims are made whole. Profiting from crime should be illegal. Book deals, movie rights, speaking fees based on criminal fame should go 100% to victims. Current loopholes allow criminals to profit. This should be closed. Better regulation. The SEC needs more power and more resources. They need to be able to shut down fraudulent firms quickly, not after years of complaints. For Jordan Belfort, crime did pay. He made $200 million. He served 22 months in a minimum security camp. He came out and became a millionaire again. He lives in a mansion. He travels the world. He's famous. The victims lost everything. Many are still struggling 30 years later. They're still working in their 70s and 80s. They lost their retirements, their homes, their marriages. The system failed them completely. Jordan Belfort is living proof that if you're wealthy, white-collar, and willing to cooperate, you can steal hundreds of millions and face minimal consequences. This is the reality of white-collar crime in America. You've now seen the complete, true story of Jordan Belfort. Not the Hollywood version, not the glamorized version, the real version, the documented, verified, factual account of what he did and who he destroyed. Jordan Belfort wasn't a lovable rogue. He wasn't a charming anti-hero who made some mistakes. He was a con man who spent 10 years systematically defrauding working-class Americans. Teachers who saved for 40 years lost their retirements. Nurses who inherited money from dead parents lost their kids' college funds. Retirees who planned modest retirements went back to work in their 70s. Over 1,500 people lost over $200 million combined. These weren't wealthy people who could afford the loss. These were ordinary people for whom this loss was devastating. Jordan went to prison for 22 months. 22 months in a minimum security camp where he taught GED classes and worked out. 22 months for stealing $200 million. He came out in 2006. He claimed bankruptcy. He claimed he had no money. But today, Jordan Belfort lives in a $4 million mansion in Manhattan Beach, California, right on the ocean. He drives luxury cars. He travels the world first class. He stays at 5-star resorts. He makes between $3 and $7 million per year from speaking engagements, seminars, courses, and consulting. Companies pay him $50,000 to $100,000 to teach their salespeople how to sell. He charges $5,000 for online courses. He has over 1 million Instagram followers where he posts photos from beaches and resorts. He still owes his victims $96 million. He's paid $14 million out of $110 million ordered by the court. In 18 years since his release, he's paid 12.7% of what he owes. The victims will never see that money. They'll die before Jordan pays it back. He has no intention of paying it back. He structured his income legally to minimize restitution. The Wolf of Wall Street movie showed you Leonardo DiCaprio partying on a yacht with beautiful women and piles of cocaine. That was entertaining. That was fun to watch. That made $400 million and got nominated for 5 Academy Awards. This is the reality. This is the crime. These are the victims. This is the injustice. Jordan Belfort is living proof that in America, if you're rich enough, if you're white-collar enough, if you're willing to cooperate with prosecutors, crime absolutely does pay. The system failed. The victims are still suffering, and Jordan is still selling. If you watched this entire investigation, thank you. Seriously, thank you for caring enough about the truth to sit through this. This was the complete, documented, verified truth about Jordan Belfort, not the Hollywood version. The reality. Subscribe right now. I'm continuing this series. More true stories behind famous movies, more white-collar crime investigations, more truth that Hollywood doesn't show you. Hit that subscribe button. Like this video right now, hours of research, fact-checking, reading hundreds of pages of court documents, victim testimony, FBI records. This deserves that thumbs up. Click it. Comment below. I want to hear from you. Should Jordan Belfort be allowed to profit from his crimes? Do you see Wolf of Wall Street differently now? What shocked you most about this story? What's the most important lesson from this? Comment, let me know. Share this video with anyone who loved Wolf of Wall Street, anyone who thought Jordan Belfort was cool, anyone who dressed up as him for Halloween. They need to see this. They need to see the other side. The movie made you root for Jordan Belfort. The movie made you laugh with him. The movie made his life look fun. Now you know the truth. He wasn't the hero of this story, the 1,500 victims who lost $200 million, whose lives were destroyed, who are still suffering 30 years later. They're the story. Leonardo DiCaprio made Jordan Belfort look cool. The 75-year-old victim, still working at a grocery store because Jordan stole his retirement, tells a different story. Hollywood gave you the party. I gave you the price. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.